Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Ed Healy, founder of Gamerati, a service provider that covers marketing, crowdfunding, and logistical services in the board game industry. Ed, it's good to be a gamer. How you doing?
In your intro, dude. It's like alliteration out the wazoo.
That's what would you expect?
I know, right? You're binging on the bees, my man.
Absolutely. Well, welcome.
We're doing
welcome.
If this was last week, I wouldn't have been in the mood to talk to you because we had a heat wave and our AC broke. But today I've got the glorious cool air coming down on me.
Yeah, so there would have been a shine on your face, I think, had we talked last week. It is cooking here in Ontario, so I can just imagine what it would have been like there. Where are you located, by the way?
About an hour south of Seattle.
Oh wow, yeah. So that's a new level of heat.
It's usually not, but we had just a fluke. 2 days it was going to be close to 100 degrees. My AC decided to break.
Oh, that's crazy. So Ed, you've got this company, Gamerati. We're going to get into kind of what that's all about. I get really excited about this because I really geek out over the business side of the board game industry. But I really want to kind of give people an idea of who you are. Your name does pop up quite a bit if anybody is on Facebook or they're following other games. Your name pops up a lot, right? Like you and I met through Buru, right? So we did an interview with the group that launched Buru game. They hit over $113,000 on their campaign. Amazing. And you helped them with that campaign. So that's how you and I got connected. So I knew you were on my list of people to chat with and kind of get in under the hood and get your perspective on this industry. So start off, just tell me kind of how did you get into this industry as a whole? How long you've been doing it? You know, where did it all start?
Okay, short version. Netscape launched the Mozilla browser when I was in college, and I did my first search on Alta Vista for Dungeons and Dragons, found Tracy Hickman. Him and Margaret Weiss had the Star Shield project. A guy who went to my high school was publishing the tabletop role-playing game for it, but their company was going out of business. So me and another guy put some money in and started a new company called Eden Studios so that my friend from high school wouldn't lose his house. That's how I got in.
Nice.
So
so this Eden Studios, what was that all about? Like, what kind of company was that?
Well, the first game we had was Conspiracy X, which did really well. It came about the same time Deadlands did. So if anybody knows Savage Worlds, Savage Worlds was Deadlands basically.
Yeah.
And we did All Flesh Must Be Eaten, which is basically the first zombie role-playing game. We did a video game. We did Buffy. We did Angel, a couple other things, Planet of the Apes. But in '97, I took a role with a company called Deloitte & Touche, one of the big six accounting firms. And one of the requirements of my employment was that I couldn't own another company. So I sold my ownership of Eden Studios back to the other two owners. Yeah. And then now George runs it all by himself. So he's been running Eden for at least a decade, maybe more, all by himself. He also owns a retail store called Zombie Planet up in Albany, New York, which is where I'm from.
Did you guys go straight to was this a Kickstarter or were these games straight to retail or?
There was no Kickstarter back then. There was no print on demand back then. There was no PDF back then. It was, hey, do you have $15,000 and hope that somebody likes your game?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was none of that back then.
And you just mentioned off a few licensed names as well. So did you have a background in licensing or is this something you just kind of got into or?
No. So Alex Yerkit was one of the other owners. He's a lawyer. Kind of helps when you're trying to do licensing things.
Sure.
And George Vasilakos was the other owner. And him and Chris Shy, one of the main artists that we use, are just, you put those guys together and your stuff just looks awesome. So we had a guy who can make stuff look awesome. We had a great artist. We had a lawyer that could edit the crap out of anything. I mean, and I had money. So
that's how they
it was a recipe for success. I didn't have anything to do with the licensing. But I mean, it was fun.
And what were you doing before that? Like, how did you, what
I was in college.
Just college. And it's like, let's get into the gaming industry.
I took some time off. I'd originally been in school in Arkansas. I was a computer science pre-engineering. But then I thought it was boring, and I wanted to transition into accounting and computer information systems. And but I took some time off to date my wife. So I dropped out of college for 9 months to date my wife, and while I was trying to get her to notice me, the internet happened. Well, the graphical internet happened. Before that, I just played Zork online and downloaded Tab for my guitar. So, but yeah, it was just I was essentially an accountant after that.
And then how did you start Gamerati? Like, what was kind of the genesis of that, or what was kind of the spark that got you to build this company?
Right. Before Kickstarter, before Patreon, Wolf Bauer from Cobalt Press, it was called Open Design back then. He decided he was going to do some what he called open design projects, and you could give him money, and he would give you a kind of a peek inside how he made the sausage. His second project was Castle Shadowcrag, and I had been running and have been since then even. So now it's been almost 30 years, been running a Plane of Shadows campaign. And so anything else in the Plane of Shadows for Dungeons and Dragons, I wanted. So I gave him like $100, even though I didn't need to, but just to make sure that he kind of like noticed I was doing it, because I was going to deploy to Iraq and I didn't want him to send me my book. I wanted him to just send me the PDF and hold on to it till I got back. And then he did Cobalt Quarterly magazine, and when I got the first issue, I looked at it and I noticed there was no ads. So I asked him if he wanted help. He said sure. I called up some people from Iraq over Skype, got him like 3 advertisers like Green Ronin and stuff, and he's like, hey, when you get home, can I get you a beer to say thank you? I'm like, how about a job? So I knew I was getting out of the army, so I figured working with Wolf is not a bad way. And it was commission based. Like it wasn't a salary. It was just, if I give you money, if I can make you money, you can give me some of it. And that's basically how Gamerati started. And everything else that we do since then has been listening to somebody like you, let's say, that would say, you know what I could really use is ... And my ears go up and I try to do it. And that's everything. So we started out running the ad network or the advertising department for a magazine. That's how Gamerati started.
Gotcha. And then when was your first kind of Kickstarter what was the first one that you guys helped with?
Gaming Paper Adventures from 2010, I think. 2010. So it's been like 11 years.
So you've been doing this for quite a while then. So like if people haven't heard from you, it's just because they haven't heard from you. But I mean, you've been kind of in this industry right from the kind of the beginning of this whole explosion of board games being funded on Kickstarter then. Is that correct?
Yeah, even before that. But yes, we've been involved, maybe not as much as we are now. We didn't do any logistics back then. We didn't really do a lot of the other stuff that we do. I only really helped Eric Bauer from Gaming Paper because I knew him. And he was like, hey, can you help? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So, I think we may have done 2 projects in 2010 and then maybe 5 the next year. But, it hockey sticked up after that. So we've worked on over 600 projects since then.
Yeah, and when you go through the website, in 2018, I guess you had been part of helping raise up to, I guess, $80 million, I guess, across different publishers you worked with.
Yeah, I think it was like 6% of all the money raised.
6% of, I was going to say, of all tabletop game dollars raised on Kickstarter in 2018. That's a huge chunk of the market.
Yeah, I was surprised, actually. I didn't realize that we had worked on that many projects and had that many projects. I was shocked, actually. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, if anybody's getting the impression that you're a humble dude, you're coming across as a pretty humble dude. That is a massive achievement, right? So congrats on that.
I can tell you it's not that way anymore, by the way. Like it's gotten way bigger, crowdfunding.
Yeah. So are you still, how many projects a year are you guys working on?
I've started working like as a consultant on fewer, and that's because the other parts of the business have kind of been doing more. And there's enough people that are out there that know what they're doing that kind of like can do an okay job. I don't need to.
Yeah.
And I think we can do better. We can move the business side of the industry forward in other ways. So I might work on, if you include some of the like one-off consulting stuff that we do, maybe 20 or 30 a year now.
It's like, a lot.
Yeah, but it's not the one a week that we were doing before. Like fully managing soup to nuts, maybe 3. Like I really don't like soup to nuts management anymore at all.
And I think that, I mean, as you're saying, like there's so many resources out there already now for people to, I mean, I always say go to Stonemeyer Games, right? If you want, like, get your bachelor's on how to do a Kickstarter campaign, go and read Jamie's blog, right? Like it's all there, paint by numbers. But I see a lot of people that'll say, hey, we're good at game development and we've all got, our artists and everything lined up. We're just not really sure how to maybe do the setup of the layout of the page and might need some help with that. Other people might say, hey, you know what, we can take care of all that, but the marketing side is something that we need help with. Other people might say, hey, we can get right to the game as manufactured, but we have no idea how to do the shipping logistics side, and quite frankly, it scares us, right? So more and more you're seeing this industry move towards service providers that are kind of plugging holes, right? That are saying, okay, well, what is it in your skill set that you don't have or haven't mastered, or quite frankly, that you don't want to allocate a lot of resources on? We'll take that, and that'll allow you then to spend your resource, your time management and things on other items. So, so as you go through this, I know, and I've kind of broke this down into kind of 3 buckets, right? So you guys have crowdfunding, marketing, logistics. We'll talk about some other stuff as well. But so for the crowdfunding specifically, how do you help people on that? So is that structure of the page? Do you come in as a contributor, or how do you guys kind of set that up?
It depends. It's everything from somebody has a specific need and I may not really help them that much. They may, quite frankly, like let's say you came to me and you're like, hey, I need somebody to help me with buying ads on Facebook because I don't know how to do it. I wouldn't count this as helping you, meaning like I wouldn't put it on my list of projects that I helped, because all I would do is introduce you to Aran at Green Inbox and the guys over at Backer Kit Marketing and Brennan Noonan from
Next Level Web and all these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like the people I know that know what they're doing in that category, because I could learn it and I can muddle through it, but I'm not the best.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's a good idea for me to have you suffer in your success because I don't know how to do it as well as somebody else does it. So if it's something like that, and this is going to be kind of the answer to everything. On a lot of things, I just introduce people to other people who know how to do things better than me. And that's where I start. And then when I identify a thing that can't be done enough that I would want to hire that person myself, then I try to develop that service within Gamerati, because look, I've got dozens of clients and they all need, let's say, influencer outreach or customer service support or social media amplification or email marketing. Like all the stuff we do, which I just listed like 4 of the things, obviously, like all of that was developed because somebody like you came to me and said, I have a game, but I don't know how to do X. And I'm like, nobody else can do it either. I guess I got to figure it out. And sometimes we fall on our face and we don't do a good job. That's fine, but if nobody else is doing a good job too, it doesn't really make me lose sleep. But more often than not, I'll go out and find somebody, like I'll go to somebody like you and be like, hey, I don't really know how to do the whole Twitch streamy thing. And you obviously do. Can I hire you?
Yeah.
But the core of what so we can do everything from introduce you to somebody, which I don't really count as me working on a project, to like soup to nuts. And if we do everything, like we're fully engaged, my entire team at every level, the only thing is probably easier to say what we don't do. The things that we don't do is we're not going to pay for your advertising on Facebook. So if you want to drop 20 grand on Facebook ads, that's nice, but we're not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
And we're not going to create the assets for your games. So like if you want to have a graphic of like the glory shot of your board game laying on a table, we're not going to do that for you. You have a graphic designer, they're already producing your game. They already have the assets in design or whatever. It's easier and better for them to do that than for us to do it. But we'll do everything else. We'll help you make sure that the P&L for your project is going to be profitable. I'll introduce you to people to get quotes. We'll do pre-marketing for you. We'll get reviews, and we'll even play test it for you to make sure it's not broken. We'll help you set up your page. We'll tell you what works, what doesn't. I don't force people to do what I want them to do. Like if I tell you that I think you should put this section above that section or reword it and you don't want to, that's fine. Like I'm just a consultant, but right? Well, sometimes it's hard to remember that, because when you get invested in a project, you're like, I really want this to succeed. It's such a cool game. And then you're like, why did they do that?
I find often people can't get out of their own way, right? So
and that goes for people like me too. Like I got to learn to get out of my own way.
Yeah, because you have a vision, and I think a vision takes you to the point of having a game that is you want to create. And I always encourage people to create the game that you want to create. Right, create something that you want, that you're passionate about, that you love playing. You're always going to find somebody that's going to say, I don't think that game's going to work, or you should change this about the game, change that to the game, and try to make it into something that they like. But publish something that you like. And you know what? There's a huge industry. You're going to find other people that have similar likes to you. But the kind of double-edged sword of that is sometimes people can get so invested that they ask for advice, but they're really not asking for advice. They're asking for confirmation. And that, I think, is a slippery slope, right? So, try to have an open mind when you're talking with a consultant. You might not take, and again, as you said, you're consulting, right? So you don't have to take everything they say. But they probably have a lot more experience on what's going to work than you do if you're the first time coming in. They're going to help you, right?
Yeah, for me, I always tell people I'm happy to give them a free hour of my time.
Yeah.
And I always send them, I have a thing on LinkedIn. It's like 10 questions I ask everybody before I start my consulting with them. So I usually email that to them first, and I'm like, this is what we're going to be talking about. So you may as well take a look now. And then that usually takes about 10, 15 minutes. And the rest is me just like conversating with them. Yeah. And by the end of that hour, they know if they want to work with me or not. And I know whether I want to work with them or not. I mean, because part of working with people is to know when to say no. You got to learn to say no to people.
Yeah. And you help with even sourcing like manufacturers and things like that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm happy to do that regardless if somebody's a client. Like if anybody's listening to this and they have no intention of hiring me for any reason, that's fine. There's two places I would suggest if you don't want to email me. And that is like Board Game Binge has a Facebook group. Just raise a hand and say, does anybody have can anybody help me here? Well, I mean, you do, right? Like,
that's a pretty large group. Yeah.
And then the only other one I would say is there is a board games Kickstarter's advice group. It's run by BackerKit, I think. Yeah. And its whole purpose is for people to ask questions like, does anybody know somebody can make a card game? Right.
Yeah. That's a good suggestion. I would even take that a step further and say, if people are looking at publishing a game, join as many of the Facebook groups as you can. Right. And for me, that was a huge difference when, with our last game is I just started joining like illustrators and, board game illustrators and
absolutely
people that support Kickstarters. And so you're obviously going to have the ones that are consumer based, right? So people you want to hopefully reach out to say, hey, we're now live on Kickstarter or we're launching tomorrow. So maybe we'll get some pledges from there. Right. A little tip of advice there is join that at least 6 months before you're going to go live with your game, so you don't look like that guy that joins a page and then tries to start spamming it right away.
Right. Join and actually help other people.
And help other people as well. Create some dialogue and conversation. But it's all these other support ones. Like I had give you a great example. We're working on a game right now that involves cars. And often we'll do our prototypes using just Shutterstock type images, right? We'll license some images from Shutterstock and use that because you can create a really nice looking game even just using licensed illustrations. But we want to find an illustrator to do custom designs for us, right? So there's a forum, I think it's called like Board Game Illustrators or something like that.
Yep.
And 3 days ago I put a note in there and say, hey, I'm looking for an illustrator that can do cars. And I had like 15 people reach out to me in 24 hours saying we'd love to be part of this project. More than half of those are just, there wasn't a fit. They are agencies or people just saying, hey, what are you want to draw? Tell us what to draw and we'll draw it for you.
My 12-year-old knows how to draw.
Yeah. So we're not looking for somebody to draw it for. We're looking for somebody who actually can give input based on what they like and stuff like that and see it as a collaboration. Right. But I was really, really impressed with what we had come out of that. And we did that for another game as well. So great resources out there. You just have to go and look for them, right? And you can't be shy to go out and ask questions. This is the one industry I think I've been involved in myself where people are happy to help. People want to help you. Yeah.
Because even on the consumer side, people want good games.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're more than happy to tell you, like I get people from all the time on our Discord. They're like, hey, you know what? There's this really awesome artist I found on Instagram. You should get one of the publishers you work with to use them in a game so I can buy the game.
Yeah.
Like people love stuff like that.
Yeah. So with your marketing, so you help with social media amplification. You'll, I guess, connect them to the right people based on the type of campaign they're looking to run. Are you still doing advertising in other areas? Like, what are some of the other areas you help people?
Yeah,
with
I mean, we
advertising?
run all the ads on like Ian World and RPGNet and Gnome Stew and Critical Hits and a bunch of blogs basically. We don't do them on BGG. I actually helped BGG set up their ad program, but that was it. I just helped them. I didn't I don't run it. That's Chatty Boy. I forget his last. Krizan. Chad Krizan runs that. Mostly what we do is, people will come to us, they'll probably want some advertising. It's not, I honestly, I don't think advertising outside of Facebook and maybe pre-roll ads on YouTube are the best use of your money if you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a ton of money, that's different. But like if you've got like $1,000 spend, don't bother advertising on my network even. Like put it somewhere else. Put it into influencer outreach. Like you said, 3 to 6 months in advance. Don't try to do it the day before you launch. So we help with influencer outreach, and that includes setting up interviews and reviews. So if you've got prototypes, we help. We don't just see if somebody wants it. We'll like manage the process of getting it to them and making sure they actually do the review. And a lot of people are scheduling a review, making sure that everybody knows when it is and they actually show up. And people who are trying to launch a game or have a business or whatever, they don't have the time to do all that stuff. So I think that's probably one of the more useful things we do.
Now, are these paid reviews or paid preview? Like, or is this just you guys?
Some of them are paid media. Yeah. So like Tantrum House, for instance, they're more than happy to do a video for your game, but you're going to pay them for it.
Oh yeah.
Like they're not going to do it for free. And we shouldn't really expect some of these higher end video people to do anything for you for free. Like it costs money to make good stuff, right? Like and some of these guys like I don't like it when I get a game and I try to get Rahdo to talk about it and he's not interested, because I know for a fact that when Rahdo says a game is good, that I know that like 20% of the backers that I get are going to be there because he said to go check it out.
Wow.
And so I am happy to pay him $1,000 to make a video or whatever. I don't really care what his price is because I'll pay it. Like there are people that are worth that. Then there's people that aren't necessarily worth that, right? And you just kind of have to like put it within your, what's your tolerance, what's your budget. But there are enough people that are more than happy to do interviews or do reviews. And if you only have like 6 prototypes, there's also people that are more than happy to, if you can get out in front of it, send it to them, then they do their review, and then they'll send it on to somebody else. Well, you'll pay for it, but they'll send it on to somebody else. And that way you can get more people talking about your game or your project. But yeah, the best of them, you're going to have to pay for it. Yeah. They're not free. So.
And then there's the curators page. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's on hold. Okay. It's kind of a sad story. Marcelo, the guy that was running the curators, he has autoimmune
disorder.
It's a brain thing that makes your brain swell. He can't eat. He can't talk. He can't sit up.
Encephalitis or something.
That's the word, encephalitis. Yeah. So it's been a year and a half actually. 2 months after COVID hit. If anybody goes to Marcelo's social media, he's all over social media. You'll notice he hasn't talked since May on social. It's because he hasn't been able to move since May of last year. So over a year. I will start curators up again when Marcelo is
Hands
back.
It off. Yeah. Okay. But and what is it?
No. It's the curator. So Kickstarter asked us to make a curated page on Kickstarter for just games. Like we're the only Kickstarter curated page for games.
Okay.
Or just games.
Yeah.
I think Geek Dad also has one, but they don't just do games. And so we decided to do a video series and a podcast called The Curators. And then we would put games up on our curated page, talk about them, kind of like what you're doing here, video and audio. But yeah, I mean, we haven't done an episode in over a year and a half, and it's really just like, I don't want to do it without Marcelo, because one, I can't talk to him, so I don't really know how he is, but I can't imagine he's doing well emotionally, and I don't want him to see us kind of walk away and take the baby that I'd rather never do an episode again than do it without him.
Well, we all wish him all the best in a speedy recovery, and hopefully you can get back and get back at it, because there's nothing like I love content. I just love
sorry.
Just just sucking it all in, and there's a lot of great content out there, and everyone's kind of got their own little hook, and it brings me joy in this industry. There's so much content. There's more than you can possibly consume.
That's true.
But it's such a great community, and I absolutely love it. Talk to me quickly about the logistics. So you guys do logistics as well. I've done entire podcasts dedicated to logistics. Most people probably fell asleep during those ones, but I geek out over it. So what do you guys do for the logistics side?
From the moment your product, well, in addition to helping you make sure the box isn't too big so that, you're not wasting a bunch of money shipping stuff for no reason. Like there is product consulting side of it. But assuming that you've already know how big your game is and it's being manufactured, we can get it from the manufacturer across the ocean to all of our different warehouses and partners. And then we can get it to your backers, your online, if you have sales on your website, we can ship to those. We'll even help you sell to retailers and distributors if you want us to. Wow. So pretty much, really when it comes down to it, we don't own a retail store, we don't manufacture anything, and we don't publish anything, but we can do everything else.
So you have warehouses though, like your own warehouses, right?
We have a warehouse in Lakewood, Washington. We partner with a company in China, one in Australia, one in Canada, one in Greece, and 2 in the UK.
Okay. So is the general idea is that you become like a one-stop shop for logistics? So if someone says, hey, I got my fulfillment I have to do for the world, they send them all to you and you take care of it?
Yeah, we're one of, I think, 3 companies that will do that. I'm pretty sure Quartermaster Logistics does about the same thing. Yeah. I'm not sure because I haven't.
Yeah, Fun Again Logistics will do it as well. Even the guys on the other side of the ocean. If you talk to like ShipQuest, so if any of our listeners from like Europe,
we partner with ShipQuest.
Yeah, ShipQuest will basically everybody's partnered with everybody, right? So ShipQuest will literally take your games and help bring them over this way to this side of the pond.
Yeah.
So.
We would partner with anybody in the U.S. too, like if Bridge Logistics in like Georgia, which is another logistics company in Georgia, if they wanted to do their stuff on the West Coast and us do their stuff on the East Coast, I'll work with anybody.
How much of the arranging do you do on behalf of the client? So say the client says, hey, I really don't have experience on getting it from the factory.
We'll do it all.
You take care of everything. So they just say,
import duties. We'll even look at your spreadsheet and how many you made, and we'll tell you how many we think you should send to Australia versus Canada versus whatever.
And then you guys actually take care of getting them to Australia in these different areas?
Yep.
What about the VAT taxes? How do you handle that?
So you really only have to worry about VAT in Europe and the UK right now.
It's a big market.
Because that's the thing that's scaring everybody.
Yeah.
Australia doesn't have that. They have GST. Yeah. New Zealand, it's a little different. Yeah. Canada, you don't really have to worry about VAT or GST either because we can just drive it across the border to Toronto and it's like $55 a pallet, which is effectively the fee. So we work with Pick and Pack Logistics in Toronto. That's who we work with up there.
Nice.
The company we work with in Greece, they have a system that allows you to essentially, and I'm going to say essentially, please understand this is not literal. Please don't rules lawyer me. I'm happy to introduce anybody who hears this
Revenue
to the guy
knocking on your door in a couple minutes too. So
he has essentially a way for you to lease his VAT registration in the UK and in Europe. That's not technically what's going on, but I always introduce publishers to him and let him explain it. Yeah. Because like I said, sometimes I don't understand something as much as other people. I just have them and get their news right from the horse's mouth.
So imagine the way around that is he's probably actually purchasing I'll put in quotation marks, purchasing the product from the US. And
likely
then he's importing it. So it's not you importing it. So he's importing under his VAT.
Yeah. He's the importer of record. That is probably true. But then again, that's his business and I don't want to state it incorrectly. So, but that being said, anybody who wants me to introduce them, I'm happy to introduce them. But a number of our clients were just really shocked at the sticker shock of having to register and report and everything in Europe and the UK. It was crazy. Way too big.
Yeah, and everything's in German, by the way, guys. So when you go get, I'm going through that right now, and we're registering our VAT, and all the paperwork's in German. Yeah, they don't put it in English.
And you don't sprechen?
No. So how do you, like, how do you work out the math on that? So is it like someone's like kind of at the end of their campaign, they give you, here's kind of my fulfillment, and then you come back and say, okay, here's based on all the places it has to go, here's the cost, or how do you guys manage that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're using us for fulfillment, we've already probably given them an estimate of what the cost is going to be for fulfilling the orders anyway before they even did their Kickstarter. But we usually, for larger projects, we're going to ask you for an advance on the postage because, you know, like we're Direwolf Digital, for instance, for Dune Imperium is a good example. Like I can't float $200,000 in postage. I mean, maybe you can, but I don't have $200,000 just laying around. So I'll have them give me an advance against the postage, and then I'll ship everything, and then I'll charge them afterwards I'll give them a reconciliation and charge them for our fees, the pick and pack fees, or maybe that and the box fees. It really just depends on how big it is. But we'll pay all the freight from China to the warehouses. We'll pay like if pick and pack logistics up in Ontario does part of the job, we'll pay them, and then we'll bill the publisher. And so everything is in like a monthly reconciliation, so they can go down and say, you know, Aetherworks in Australia, BFI Asia in China, and they can see all the different things and get all their information.
And the reality is not like they're paying out of pocket. This is after the campaign's done, so they've got the funds already from their backers, and those funds should be put towards
and we net against any sales we've made.
Yeah, and logistics and so forth. So
and we net it against sales. So if like we're also selling their product to ACD and other distributors and stuff, what we'll do is we'll say, well, we spent $200 for you, but we sold $1,000, so I owe you $800.
Okay, gotcha.
You should look, you know, or vice versa. So everything's kind of on one reconciliation. Yeah.
So where does Gamerati kind of going from here? So like, I'm sure you've, as a company, have a vision as to kind of what the next step is, or kind of where the next level of your platform is. What is that?
We're focused on the logistics side right now.
Yeah.
There's been, you know, with the COVID problems that happened last year and the container shortages and it's the scariest part of the industry.
Yeah.
And so there's really only two reasons I've done anything in the industry. Either somebody says you can't do it, which I'm like, hold my beer, or somebody needs help, you know, like somebody like George, I didn't want him to lose his house. Right. So I started a business. But other than that, there's really no other motivations. And right now in this industry, I think logistics is the most scary part of the industry.
Yeah.
And so I think we're currently been working with the guys that, are you familiar with Ancestry.com?
Yes.
So the guys that did that, we've been working with them for the better part of a year and a half, trying to do a better system to not just do logistics, but integrate some of the other stuff. Like I own the RPG Bloggers network. I have Games for Troops that I've never done anything with. I mean, there's all these other, our ad network. I think it would be cool to enter and create systems that integrate those things a little bit better.
That'd be cool. Do you guys integrate with like Shopify? So someone's using you to store their goods after the campaign and they want to sell.
The current system we have does not, which is why we spent the last year and a half. And you know, if we were having this conversation like 2 months from now, the answer would probably be yes. But as of today, the answer is no. But I mean, it's usually not that big a problem because most people that use Shopify aren't generating more than like 40 or 50 orders a week anyway.
Yeah, so they just do it by email or by fax.
Or my shipping manager logs into their account for them and downloads them and they never see them. Yeah.
Nice.
So like I think North Star sends us things directly, and Shem from Garfield sends us stuff directly, I think.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, I think my shipping manager logs in and just downloads the stuff for them.
So if people want to contact you, Ed, and they're interested in Gamerati, and I'm sure there's got a lot of people that are. I mean, you guys have a lot to offer. I know there's your Gamerati.biz website. How best do they reach out to you? Is it through the website, or is there another contact way? Or?
They can do that. I mean, pretty much any email address at Gamerati.com will get to me. So you can, send it to BoardGameBinge@Gamerati.com and it'll get to me. Maybe I should have it go to you, but I only really have like 6 employees, and my email is the catch-all. There's a very small chance you will choose one of the first names of one of my employees and I won't get the email, but other than that, I'll get the email.
That's awesome. Well, Ed, I want to thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy guy. I can't wait to see the next project. I want to thank you, quite frankly, for even connecting us to the Buru team. That was a great interview. I absolutely loved chatting with them. I actually backed the game afterwards because the game just looked like so much fun. So I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and there'll be other people coming our way that are maybe interested in the binge that you're working with.
Cool, man. Anytime.
All right, you take care. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.